Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants. Welcome back to the podcast, brothers. This is Rip Moore, past master of Fort Worth 148.
This is Gabe Yagish, junior warden of 148.
This is Ebby Kirkendall, master of ceremonies at Fort Worth 148.
Good to be back, boys.
It's nice to be back together again, recording.
Yeah, I was going to say, am I on mute or something?
Nah. We're going to bring you guys our NPR moment for this episode. Please go ahead, look us up on iTunes or your preferred podcast platform. I know that there's a bunch of them. If you're not subscribed to us, please subscribe. And please rate and leave feedback on our podcast via your preferred podcast app, whether it's iTunes or Podcatcher or whatever. We appreciate any feedback, and ratings and comments help us get exposed to other listeners. So we know that many of y'all enjoy this podcast a lot and you've told people that you know about it, but ratings and reviews will help us get noticed more easily by the random algorithms that the internet subjects us to.
Yeah, just think about that guy that is wanting to listen to a Masonic podcast, and especially in Texas anyways, and it'll help you find it. That's as close as we'll get to a commercial as, well, I say that. If it's going to be a commercial, it's going to be something Masonic anyway, so we'll see. That's interesting.
And if you want to sponsor Fort Worth 148's podcast, you can just email me at my personal email and write me a check, and I will be more than happy to take it.
Yeah.
I'm talking to you, Teskey's Boots.
Maybe we could also do like a commercial for stated meeting or degrees or something eventually. That'd be interesting. I don't know. Something to kick around.
We used to kind of do something like that in season 1. But it got to just be overwhelming in terms of information and getting the show started, because we'd rattle off like a gazillion different events or Masonic news, and it was just so much.
That's where you fast forwarded. True that. I remember.
Well, it's like listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, except instead of 10 minutes of ads, it was 10 minutes of events.
Yeah, that's true.
Shout out to Joe Rogan for having a great podcast. Please don't sue me.
Yeah. I always fast forward through that. Yep. Well, sweet.
So what are we doing tonight, Rit?
We're roundtabling again, and I put on here, because I didn't know what to put. I put roundtabling some Masonic bull snot.
Is that the technical term?
That's the technical term when it's like, oh Lordy, the guest that we tentatively had scheduled pushed to a later date. So it was like, let's just throw something together. So there you go.
Well, it's not like that. It's not like there's not ample topics that we can talk about. I mean, you've got a nice little outline for us that I think is going to take up most of our evening this podcast. So
that's why we're doing it, because on the drop of a dime, I was able to come up with an agenda.
Yeah, and for any of our listeners that don't know, the team, all of us keep basically, we either remember questions that we've seen or heard or been asked, or I keep a list of questions that I want to bring back for roundtables and stuff. So, when we need to do a roundtable, we have an outline ready to go, because all of us are either saving or remembering questions that we want to talk about.
Yeah, Gabe keeps Reddit pretty good.
And I'm the Facebook troll, so if anything's hot on Facebook, it's going to get talked about here. So
true. I say post on there too with good questions. Throw in. So I guess we can get right in. We don't have a listener question. We just got discussion topics. Right. Which, Gabe, you found the first one, so you want to fire it off?
Sure. The first question is, as far I've always understood you don't wear a pendant body regalia to Blue Lodge meeting. I can understand wearing someone wearing a lapel pin for an pendant body, but I recently witnessed a brother wearing his KYCH regalia to a Blue Lodge meeting. Doesn't this go against meeting on the level? Now,
So, what before you start? What is that? What do they mean by KYCH regalia?
so KYCH is Knights of the York Cross of Honor, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is an invitational body that is, I would consider, part of the wider Masonic family on the York Rite side, right?
Gotcha.
There's, with all of these stuff, there's always a debate as to, like, is this actually the York Rite, or is this an extension of the York Rite, or is this a small m Masonic group that requires York Rite membership, right?
Almost like a quasi-appendant York Rite body.
Yeah, I consider it to be part of the wider small m Masonic family, right? And an extension of the York Rite. But anyway, it's an invitational body, and in order to be eligible, right? Like, this does not, you do not automatically get elected to this body. But in order to be eligible to be invited, you have to have served as a past master of a craft lodge, as a high priest of a Royal Arch chapter, as the thrice illustrious master of a cryptic council, and as the eminent commander of a commandery of Knights Templar, right? So you have to preside in all 4 York Rite bodies, right?
Plus a craft lodge?
Yeah, so Craft Lodge, right? The Blue Lodge.
Blue Lodge.
Right.
Yeah,
so all 4 York Rite bodies: Blue Lodge, chapter, council, commandery. And
I follow you now. Okay.
And so that's the eligibility. And then you have to be voted on, and I believe it's a unanimous vote that you have to pass, right?
Makes sense.
So, and they meet in I can't remember what the name. It's not convents, I think. It's something else. But there's a couple in Texas. There's a couple in each state. Some states are small enough that they only have one. But it's a neat little body that is meant to recognize guys that have served as in the East for their bodies. Priory. That's what it's called. They're called priories. And my answer to this is, I have my own opinion, but I'm going to let you and Evie go first. For context, the regalia that a KYCH member wears is a cord. It's like a rayon cord with a white cord, a red cord, a blue cord, and a purple cord, all braided together. And then from that cord, it has a little crown hanging from it. And the crown has the square and compasses, the triple tau, the cryptic triangle, and the crown and cross, right? And just to symbolize, hey, all 4 York Rite bodies. So that's what the regalia would be. A past prior of a priory would have a larger medallion that looks substantially different. But I can't imagine that somebody would be wearing a past prior medallion to a Blue Lodge meeting. I would think it's the York Rite, the KYCH member cordon.
Gotcha. Because that was my whole thing. Is like, how obnoxious is it?
Basically, it looks like a necklace.
Yeah. Yeah. Then great, awesome. If you want to show off your membership in that. That's fantastic. That granted, because we have laws when it comes to degrees on what you can wear during a degree on appendant bodies. So I think that pertains to participation in the degree. So maybe he could wear it on the sidelines. But even then, because I've seen guys wear their full decked out military uniform with all kinds of awesome medals that make me feel like this guy's way more bad to the bone than me. And I'm fine with it. And if this guy's earned more privileges in Masonry and on his journey, and he wants to be proud of that, that's awesome. And as a brother, I should support that and congratulate, you know what I mean? Be happy for him.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be jealous of what he's got as long as it's at the appropriate time. I think it's, the appended bodies add so much to people's Masonic journey that we should be able to celebrate that, even if it is invitational, you know what I mean? Because to me, if you're getting out of shape about that, and when it's done at the appropriate time, you a little bit jealous. Right. And probably don't need to be in invitational bodies like that.
Oh man.
Well, I would say that there's a little bit to unpack about this too. So the thing that I'm kind of focusing in on is, are we talking about whether this is actually regalia, or are we talking about the meeting on the level perspective?
Right.
The I'm holier than thou.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you could go with either direction there. So if we're gonna call this regalia, regardless of what regalia it belongs to, whether it's commandery regalia, whether it's Shriner's regalia, whether it's Scottish Rite regalia, it doesn't matter. If it's regalia of another body, does it have a place in the Blue Lodge? And then the other side of that, is it appropriate for us to be wearing things from invitational bodies that might make another brother feel like we're really not on the level? And I think that those are two different conversations. I think the former is more of a, well, what does the law book say? Because I think that there's, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's some guidance in most jurisdictions about that. And then the second question is a little bit more of a philosophical question that I think we could dive into.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to look at it, because one is this possible, and then the other one is this in good taste, right?
Yeah,
or is this appropriate, right?
And that was the key word to my explanation. Is it appropriate? Because if we're initiating a new candidate and you're all over there bling bling, I don't even know that it's appropriate when I come in a full uniform of military dress. It's about the candidate that night. You know what I mean? So there's so many different variations of what's appropriate, what not, and what's not. But at a regular stated meeting, why not?
Yeah.
What better time to encourage brothers? Because for me, if that's something that I was interested in and obtaining at some point, that would motivate me. It's like seeing the Texas Lodge of Research apron. Every time I see a brother wearing that, it's like, man, I need to get on my horse. I don't ever think, oh, he's trying to be holier than thou.
Yeah.
He should be proud of that.
Yeah.
But again, if it's done with taste.
Right. And like one of the things that I see for example, in my Royal Arch chapter, two of our members are grand officers. Well, actually, three of our members. Two of our members are grand officers of the grand chapter, and one member is a district deputy grand high priest, right? And when I see them wearing their regalia, it kind of fills me with a little bit of pride for my chapter, right? Because we're this, we're Texas chapter, and we're churning out grand officers. How cool is that, right? That's to me, that fills me with a communal sense of pride, right? And one of our council members, he's not an officer, but he's a member. One of our council members is a grand officer of the Grand Council, right? If y'all remember the episode with Don Paul Payton, he is the Right Illustrious Deputy Grand Master of the Grand Council. And that fills me with pride to know that, hey, DP's going out and doing great things, and hey, he's also a member of my council. Like, how cool is that, right?
Yeah.
And, we have the same thing with commandery. We've got a couple grand officers in there, and that's very cool. Our Rick Jernigan and Ricky Cox are both members of Worth Commandery number 19, and they do a great job of representing the commandery, and that's awesome.
Well, even the Grand Senior Warden, he's an affiliated member of our Blue Lodge, but
that's true.
We still we're still love the fact and are proud of the fact that he chose to be a member there, but he meets on the level.
Yes,
He's no different.
And so when it comes to stuff like the KYCH regalia, if it's the member cordon, right, where it's the the white and blue and red and purple and the little crown, or if it's the KYGCH, which is the Knight of the York Grand Cross of Honor, which is if you are a past presiding grand officer, then that to me says, hey, like this is somebody who has done their time, they've served it, and I'm very proud that this person is a member of my body, right? I kind of look at the KYCH as equivalent to a past master's medallion or a past master's jewel or a past master's collar or even a past master's apron. It's just a more broad and holistic sort of past master's deal, right? So if it's not on the level to wear a KYCH medallion, in my opinion, then it wouldn't be on the level to wear a district deputy apron or a grand officer's apron or a past master's apron.
Yeah,
or even an officer's apron.
In particular, the past master and like past grandmaster's ring and apron and stuff, those things in particular, because those match precisely to what that represents. Officers, maybe you have an argument there, that you're identifying who's doing what in a lodge, but still it, if by the same token, if that argument's true, says they're not on the level.
Yeah, well, I also think it's interesting that they selected a York Rite regalia piece to put this down. I mean, it doesn't everybody have an invitation only kind of honorific? I mean, the Scottish Rite does in the 33rd degree,
right?
And they have the preceding one. I forget the name of it. Just the one that prepares you for the 33rd, or
KCCH.
That you get before that. Exactly.
Yeah, Knight Commander of the Court of Honor.
So, exactly.
32 and a half.
Yeah. 32.5 FM.
Yeah.
So it's interesting that they chose the York Rite body for that, or the York Rite honorific for that, instead of just honorifics of that nature in general, the selected honorifics.
Well, and I think that's just...
And I just wonder if that speaks about the question or the questioner, if this is more of something where they feel inferior because of it, more so than it actually being an issue. Like what I'm suggesting here is that the person who they saw wearing this was the problem, not the regalia being the problem.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right, because it's so specific. Obviously, someone experienced that specifically. Right. That's what the way it's worded speaks to me. Like,
yeah, and the wording is, I recently witnessed a brother wearing his KYCH regalia to a Blue Lodge meeting. Right, so this is something that he saw. But I've seen people wear. I've never seen somebody wear a Scottish Rite cap in a Blue Lodge, because everybody knows that at least in North American Freemasonry, the master, because I know that it doesn't necessarily apply to all of Canada. In American Freemasonry, the U.S. of A., the master is the only one that's covered. Elsewhere in the world, the master isn't even covered at all. But in the U.S., the master is covered, and he's the only one that's covered, except for brothers that have religious requirements, or sometimes your Grand Lodge will allow for medical requirements, like a bandage or something like that. But so I've never seen a Scottish Rite cap, because everybody knows you don't do that. But I have seen in the past guys wearing like the double-headed eagle, the 32nd degree jewel. I did see somebody wearing a 33rd degree jewel once in a stated meeting, but I've never seen it at a degree, right? And is it in the best of taste? I don't know. That's up to your lodge, and that's up to you. Yeah, I don't know. I would say that simpler is better. but I also don't have a massive problem with it or anything.
Yeah, I don't think you're meeting off the level if you do decide to wear that, as long as it's not obnoxious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because then I don't care how you wear it. It's just obnoxious.
Yeah.
Well, and I think we all know that person who is the guy who wants attention for their honorifics. And chances are, if they are that kind of person who's going to seek out attention by wearing certain types of regalia, like the KYCH regalia that we're talking about here, chances are they will probably not be one of the people who got that particular honor.
Yeah.
Because I think that's something that your brothers are going to sniff out really fast. Does that make sense?
I wish this was true.
Yeah.
You didn't hear that from me?
Maybe in an ideal world.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. You know, things change, though. People change.
Well, and generally speaking, I will say that from my personal experience, most invitational bodies actively dissuade and do not invite title seekers, right? Like there is mostly good quality control in terms of who is getting, how the West Gate is being guarded. It's not always the case, unfortunately, but for the most part, yeah, the West Gate is appropriately guarded.
Agreed. Yeah, and I agreed. Most of them, it's to keep it, quiet, anyways. But again, just to answer the question, it's not off the level if it's done appropriately. It's craziness.
As long as it's accompanied by humility, right? Then I'd say absolutely go for it. It's just like we've kind of already alluded to in this conversation. It's like wearing a past grandmaster's apron. If you wear it with humility, which vast majority of past grandmasters that I've encountered do, then yeah, go for it. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah. Make it happen, Captain. That's what we have the bodies for anyways.
Yeah. So let's talk about this next question. Rit, you put this one on there. What do you feel could be done to increase attendance at historical observance events that the Grand Lodge of Texas hosts?
And this one not almost. It does embarrass me to put down because I haven't been to any, and it irks me. The year that I served as DDGM, it's the last year they did the Master Masons inside the Alamo. And I kept telling myself I was going to go. Of course, I did every year leading up to this. Like, no, I can't this year. I'll go next year. I'll make sure I go. And now it's over. But I also think about just like at the San Jacinto Monument. Could you imagine the hallowed feeling you get knowing what happened there, or the come and take it at Gonzales? But yet every year it's just getting smaller and smaller and smaller. And it intrigues me why. I mean, one, I've been tasked to help increase attendance at those. But why do you think that happened? How do we change it?
Well, I think the first thing that I would say is that I've never been to one of those, mostly because of geography. For those of you who don't know out there, Texas is a big place, and driving from Fort Worth or the Metroplex or Wichita Falls or Amarillo or El Paso to someplace like, South Texas and the Valley, or, these are really long trips, so upwards of 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. So there's problem number one. And so I think the answer to that is making sure that the people who are responsible for scheduling these things are doing so in a way that maximizes people's attendance opportunity, meaning, we're looking at weekend events, we're looking at afternoon and evening events, things that don't start at 8 a.m. on a Saturday morning, because nobody's going to leave work on a Friday night, drive for 8 hours, and then wake up at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock or even 10 o'clock to go to a Masonic historical event.
Yeah.
And so it's all about timing. And if you want to maximize, butts in the seats, you have to make sure that you're doing it at a time when the most people are available.
That's interesting, though, about because I think, even, because the first thing that comes to my mind is they're not marketed very well. You do hear about them through certain aspects of Grand Lodge. Either, it's on the Grand Master's calendar, or they might put it in the magazine that we get it, quarterly or whatever it is. But it's not like there's a lot of hype to it, And I even wonder if that would change things because, like you said, there's other obstacles that go into that. And the main one is, of course, time and travel. But then there's the expense because Gonzales, that's pretty far out there. So is San Jacinto. Of course, that's East Texas there. But you do have a lot of obstacles. But I think if we were able to get the word out, I know we could at least double or not triple in probably 4 or 5 years. But I wonder, like, if you did like a Facebook Live or YouTube Live thing to where people could watch it at their place.
Well, think about Masonicons. Our lodge hosts Texas Masonicon for the past 2 years. It's doubled in size in 1 year almost, didn't it? Am I imagining that number?
30%, I think, is what we grew.
Yeah,
so,
almost doubled, a third increase in 1 year. But other Masonicons around the country have seen huge attendance. So even though we're talking about expense, that's not I think the primary obstacle. And I think that you hit the nail on the head, which is how is it being marketed? And more importantly, how much lead time are they putting out, the people who are organizing these various historical events, specifically Grand Lodge in this case? How much lead time are they doing? How much information are they giving out? Are they scheduling it a year in advance? Because I start hearing about Masonicons all over the country months and months and months and months in advance, getting it by email. And so if they are going to be serious about wanting to get more people to go to these events, then it's important that they plan them early enough and that it's often and early. Tell me about it often and tell me about it early so that I can plan my budget, so that I can plan my travel schedule, and so that I can gin up excitement in the lodges. Because I know that it would be amazing to go to Gonzales or to San Jacinto or, even if it's not in the Alamo. Fun events that represent us Masonically, I would want to go. But I can't, I for work purposes, I've got to schedule, a few weeks in advance at least.
No, and also, to be fair, it is on Alamo ground still, so it's still totally awesome. Don't get me wrong, but you're right. I think there is a lot to that, and you mentioned Masonicons. I think there's a lot to what's being done at these things. Is it just come in, get dressed up in a suit, and you listen to a few guys speak about stuff, which is important. Don't get me wrong, and then it's over. Then what did I drive down there for? Is there some kind of barbecue or picnic afterwards or some kind of get together? I think about like the backyard at Grand Lodge. That seems to be drawing more and more people every year to Grand Lodge, even though they can't vote. They don't want to miss the party.
I know some of our EAs are already talking about wanting to go. Obviously, they can't go into some of the tiled events, but they want to go because they want to engage in the fraternity. They want to engage in the brotherhood and make that central to the event as well. And suddenly it becomes more than just, I'm going to stand there and listen to a guy talk and that's what, those are important. I'm not trying to minimize the reverence of those events. But if your goal is to increase attendance, the key to those things is early, often, and make it fun.
Yeah. No, another good example is the barbecue cook-off because, The family day, I think, is a great thing that the Grand Lodge does every year at the TMRC. But if I'm being honest with everybody, I love the barbecue cook-off way more. It's just such a fun fellowship night. And it really adds to the value of that whole weekend. To where if something were like that were added to those events. And again, I've never been. Maybe they do things like that, but they're just not advertised, because you're right. When it comes to travel and money, the fishing trip, those are always successful. And those are in Galveston and stuff. Like, people travel from North Texas down there. So it can happen. It's done right. That's the trick.
And also, I think it depends on the energy about it too. Any event where the people who are organizing it are excited about it, that excitement is going to breed more excitement. And it's going to breed more people talking about it in open lodge whenever it comes time for announcements. And secretaries are going to want to talk about it in their lodges if they know about it. So it's about an energy that surrounds it. And I think that there should be a natural energy surrounding it, because this is a huge part of our Masonic history. Why wouldn't we? I mean, why wouldn't we be excited about this stuff? This is what we're all about.
Yeah. No, and that would be fun to go down and party with guys, Masons from across the state. Anytime you get an opportunity to do that, it's great. So I think at the very least, like there needs to be event pages for each one on Facebook, if not other social media platforms. And I feel like that needs to be something pretty prominent on the Grand Lodge website. So secretaries see that all the time and can make those announcements. And the brothers could too, through Facebook, because usually somebody from a lodge is on Facebook. Not everybody, but somebody is. And if Grand Lodge started utilizing that, they put out events. I mean, I think they'd be very successful.
Well, I also just think that there's a fear, generally speaking, about social media and Freemasonry. I think we've all kind of seen it, and we've actually had discussions that involve it. But I think that the time has come where if we want to be the outward-facing organization, the organization that has its doors facing the streets of our communities, where we are actively not just inviting people in, but we're going out into the community and being part of the community, then we have to engage in the ways that people are communicating today. And when we have these natural outlets for that, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, all of the other social media outlets that are out there that are free. I mean, we're not talking about Facebook is free. All of these social media sites are free. So we're getting huge amounts of opportunity for reach for free. I think that it's incumbent upon us as an organization to start utilizing those, regardless of what one's feelings are about social media in general.
Yeah, I mean, because when it comes to events like that, we're typically talking about something that's in conjunction with the city. And the more the public attends, the better. If we were doing some private event like they wanted to promote Grand Lodge, maybe they need a secure secret page that has vouched for Texas Masons, but that's a pipe dream way in the future. But when it comes to these public events, Facebook is tailor-made for that. Social media in general, anyways.
I think that's probably one of those dead horses that we beat. So the whole social media thing and being more outward facing in a technological world.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no doubt. There are many things, case in point, podcasts that could be done that are very, very minimal in cost.
That would be really cool to get like a Grand Lodge podcast. Whose ear do we need to put that into?
We'll talk.
Super secret squirrel.
just look at our Grand Lodge lineup and just think, just imagine how that could even be possible. Yeah. Anyway, we'll move on to the next question before I get myself in trouble.
And Rit means that in a positive way.
Yes, absolutely positive. So this is something that comes up all the time, so I added it on here, that my lodge is seriously considering holding a raffle. I see people posting about them online from time to time, and they seem like a good idea. And this kind of morphed into a little bit bigger discussion throughout the day, Evie and I kind of bouncing back. But the main reason I wanted to put it on is to remind guys, do not post online about your raffles. That's against state law, not Masonic law, state law. So if you are considering holding a raffle, even if you have held a raffle, if you Google Texas state law raffle, you're going to end up on Ken Paxton's website. That's going to break down in real simple terms what you can and can't do. And then there's a little link at the bottom that'll take you to the actual legalese of it if you're so inclined to read that. But while we're lucky we can hold them, there are some pretty strict laws that if they caught wind of a lodge holding a raffle, advertising it on Facebook, and then using those funds for their lodge as opposed to designated charities or the designated types of charities they've got to go to, that could mean trouble. So we got to watch ourselves. But to expand on this, we were thinking about what are some good ideas for fundraisers, right? I mean, because raffles aren't the only way.
Yep.
And I personally, I would hate to have to sell raffle tickets.
Yeah, selling raffle tickets feels like it really burdens the members of your lodge, right? And and I know some guys that are really great at selling raffle tickets and they like doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is totally fine.
But you're lucky if you have them.
Yeah. The problem is when guys that aren't good at it or don't like doing it or both, right, feel compelled to sell raffle tickets, right? It's not for everybody, and it's not something that we should peer pressure guys into. But a lot of times, if the worshipful master says, hey guys, this is what we're doing, or if your lodge does it every year, then you're going to feel compelled to join in on trying to sell these raffle tickets. So raffles are great, but they're not for everyone.
No, and the main thing I would ask is that if you do get sucked into that and you don't want to, just do it at the appropriate time. Nobody comes to lodge to be cornered to hard sold a raffle ticket. But there are guys that if you say, hey, I've got raffle tickets for sale for XYZ, they'll buy one. They'll come up and buy one. You don't have to corner us and come on, get out your credit card. I got a card reader too.
At some point it starts feeling very Girl Scouts, and there's nothing wrong with the Girl Scouts. I'm not trying to drag them or anything, but that's kind of how it feels, is that we're selling Girl Scout cookies in a raffle ticket format. And so it's about appropriateness. And, I agree with you that raffles are not for everybody, and they're certainly not for every lodge. But on the other side of that, I've seen lodges do amazing things with their raffles of all sorts of different items. Mm-hmm. There was some Facebook talk today about that very subject, about raffles and different items that you can raffle and things of that nature. So, I think it's awesome that people are even talking about that.
Yep. And just do it right. But, when it comes to fundraisers that aren't raffles, the laws are, it's
a lot more open.
Yeah, it's a lot more open. And a good example that I learned about visiting lodges here this last year was a lodge that does a fish fry. And everybody giggles and kind of laughs, and that's kind of become a cliche thing about, when's the lodge holding a fish fry? Well, these cats did phone orders and they called around the town, hey, would you like to order some fresh got fried fish on this date, and got orders. And then the day of took phone in order, and they made 5 figures. I can't remember if it was 15 or 22, but it was somewhere in that neighborhood. They netted on a fish fry.
And that goes to show what proper planning and not propaganda, advertisement, PR.
Yeah.
Go and push your message as early as you can and as often as you can, because if I know that, hey, like, we're doing this, cooking based event and there will be food available and it's going to cost X number per serving, and I have all the information and I know that I'm going to be in town that day, chances are I'm going to say, yeah, sure. I've got something going on, but I'll absolutely, dip out of that and go grab some food and then come back, or, hey, I'll make those my lunch plans, or I'll make those my dinner plans. Right. Because then
not only
in advance.
that, we will tell, and not only that, we will tell every Mason that we know about it, because we are, let's be honest, if it's got a square and compasses attached to it, we're gonna buy it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to tell other people who have square and compasses on the back of their car about it. We are nothing if not loyal to anything slapped with a square and compass.
Yeah.
So
and the nice thing about
whether it's a cooking event.
Yeah. And the nice thing about cooking events is that they're universal, and, non-Masons are going to appreciate it just as much as Masons will.
Yeah. I study with guys, a handful of guys that'll drive 2 hours for a fish fry. Really? And they know lodges that do them yearly, like they hold fish fries at this date every year, and they're there every year.
Yeah.
I just heard them joking about it the other day. Yeah, I'll be there for 30 minutes, and when I get my fill on fish, I'll head on home.
Yeah. See, I'm not crazy about fried catfish, so for me it's like, like if it's a matter of convenience and accessibility, right? Like I'm not going out of my way. I'm not going super out of my way for fried catfish.
No, and that lends to the, don't get stuck in a rut of, hey, this lodge 100 miles did a fish fry and made money. Well, now you're going to do the venison, smoked venison, whatever you come up with.
Now, if you talk to me about a crawfish boil and some gumbo, then we're talking. Go. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm from Brazoria County, so, seafood, in addition, seafood other than fried catfish is also very dear to my heart for being from the Gulf Coast. So, crawfish boils are where it's at.
And the thing
that's really fun. Like my apartment complex. I live in a house now, but a few years ago I lived in an apartment complex, and the building manager put together this giant crawfish boil, and they were running donations for something. I can't remember what, but people were chipping in, and it was a voluntary donation. Like you could show up and but people were throwing in cash anyway. And I mean, it was a horde of people because everybody loves crawfish except for the people that are allergic. And I'm sorry that you're allergic because you can't enjoy this amazing food. But it's a huge hit with people normally.
Yeah. There's so many ideas. I visited a little lodge out in Rio Vista that does a golf tournament and a clay shoot. This is in a town of 905 people. 905 people. And they made, I think it's like 21,000 on the golf tournament and 14 on the clay shoot. And it was all, they worked their tails off, but the possibilities are out there. You could do a sharpshooting contest. You could do a guided hunt. There's just so many ideas. Well, when it comes to the city, it's easy.
Auctions is another great way to do it. I know that the brothers out in Young County, they do an auction every year, and they, if I recall correctly, and I may not be recalling it correctly, but they're not the ones selling it, right? They're just the ones that organize it, and they take an organizer's fee from the auction, and they make bank, and that's what they use to fund all of their scholarships, right?
Yeah.
Because It's super easy because they say, hey, you're one of the vendors. Be here on this date and show up for the auction. Sellers, be here on this date, bring a truck, right? And if you're a vendor, then we're taking X% of this as an organizer's fee. And people show up from all over the place because, I mean, some of these finds are incredible. And it's a great time, you know?
Yeah.
Fort Worth Scottish Rite does a silent auction every year for the Burns Dinner, right, to raise money for the Dallas Scottish Rite Hospital for Children. And, I mean, it's a great fundraiser. It's a good time because you've got the social aspect of the Burns Dinner, and then you've got the charity aspect of the silent auction. I mean, it's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and I mean, a small town lodge could easily do that. Cook a nice dinner, and you charge $40 a head to where my wife and I could go, and it only costs $40. $20 a person to make the meal. You make a profit.
Yeah,
because it's not all about putting up the numbers. It's just about keeping an income coming in.
Right. And so, especially for stuff like your scholarship fund and everything. This is a fantastic opportunity, especially if you organize and obviously I'm not a lawyer, I am not an accountant, I cannot provide any information that you can legally use, right? I just wanted to throw that out there for anybody that's listening. But if your lodge runs your charities through a 501c3 that's managed by the lodge, that is a separate entity, right? Where like maybe, it is a 501c3 and all the board members of that 501c3 happen to be lodge officers or lodge members, right? You can't directly make a 501c3 managed by the lodge, right? You can't do like shells and stuff. But you can do 501c3 where all the board members are members of the lodge. And that's the nice thing. The nice thing about those is that when people donate to them, it's considered tax deductible. And you don't get taxed, and it is strictly a nonprofit, right? Now, lodges are nonprofit. We're a 501c10, but we're not tax deductible when people contribute to us, right? So that may give you a big advantage. So
and because you're 100% correct. The only caveat to that, like if you hold a raffle, that raffle has to go to certain charities. You know what I mean? For abused children, education, scientific research, that is tax deductible.
Yeah. The raffles, as far as Grand Lodge law goes, as far as I'm aware, raffles cannot be used for your general fund.
No, right? That's a Texas state law. Yeah.
Oh, that's a Texas state law. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So in addition to you can't advertise it online, you can't use it for your general fund. It cannot be considered part of your cash flow. That has to be for a scholarship or for some other charitable venture like Rit describes.
Yeah. And those are all listed specifically if you just Google Texas state law raffle. It's the first thing that comes up. It's got the .gov. You can't miss it.
And we want to stress this. Don't get your lodge in trouble with the law because you were trying to do something good, right?
Yes.
I mean, and we're not joking around when we say this. You might have the best intentions, and it's a great idea. But if you don't do it by the book, you can tank your lodge legally, and it is a scary prospect. So be sure of what you're doing.
Yeah, it could reverberate across the state because if the comptroller opens up one lodge's books and finds something crazy, they could open up them all. So it's just best to err on the side of safety. Before I forget, though, I was over to Arlington Heights Lodge. So they had a buddy or got in contact with a home investor that flips a lot of homes, and they have a lot of work that needs to be done. That's just like leveling a fence. It's simple stuff, non-licensed manual labor. That this lodge goes out on a Saturday and they'll work at these various houses doing work, and they get the money donated to them for the work they complete for this investor. So, there's a lot of different ways. They were also setting up to where they park cars for the TCU game. And the TCU alumni or somebody like that pays them and donates the money to the lodge. So get creative, man. Get on the Google and see what's out there.
Get on the Google.
Yeah.
Okay, old man Rit. It's like the Facebook.
Yeah.
the instant gram.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of visiting too. You know, because I would have never known about that had I not got off my duff and went and visited Arlington Heights that night. So you never know what you're going to find out.
The only thing I would add to everything that you guys have said is that I think that the key to success in any fundraising venture is going to be to make sure that you have the support. There's no nothing is going to burn out brothers more than if it's 2 or 3 guys that are the planners, the executor, doing going to burn them out, and they're never going to want to do it again. So you have the wherewithal, and that your lodge is behind it, and that you're excited about it, and the leadership, and everybody knows what's expected of them.
Agreed. Don't do fundraisers if you're the only one wanting to do it, because you're going to be the only one doing it.
What we got next, Rit?
Next one on the list is, so why do you feel protocol is so important in our meetings, especially stated meetings?
And for context, protocol is considered important enough that we have an entire officer dedicated to it.
Yeah, so I mean, like when you stand up, you address the worshipful master and wait to be called on, kind of protocol, all those kind of things. I move that we, do this second motion, the Robert Rules of Order kind of thing. Why is that so important?
Well, I think it points to 2 different sorts of reasons, and both of them are just as important as the other. I think the one reason is it sets up a process by which people can voice their opinions, and the worshipful master and the officers of the lodge can keep control of what's going on, even in a heated debate. Whenever contentious items come up before the lodge, contentious votes, contentious candidates, it's important that the process be slow enough so that it gives time for everyone to maintain a cool demeanor, and that no one loses their control, and everyone keeps their passions within due bounds. I think the other side of the coin that is a little bit less practical is the ritualness of it, the ritual aspect of making a motion, that motion being seconded, it then being brought up for a vote before the lodge. All of these processes are in place for a reason, and it allows for a very calm but serious tone about everything that's being done. And so that's why kind of Robert's Rules happened, is to maintain both sides of those coins, the ritual aspect of it, and then the cool heads prevailing aspect of it. If everybody's just allowed to stand up and talk willy-nilly, it's very easy for those sorts of things to fall into disarray. And I think we've all seen what happens in lodges where those sorts of things are not as enforced as perhaps they should be.
Yeah, I think for me, you hit the nail on the head, because of course there's the ritual aspect to it. But it's so subtle that I don't think we really give that enough credit, or it's as important as the other aspect of control, because essentially it makes you think about what you're going to say. Because normally a subject comes up and you're listening to someone speak about it, and you're having to think, oh, I want to say something about this. And then you have to stand up and wait for permission. It kind of gives a little humility to the whole aspect, that, hey, I want to get up and ram this down someone's throat. And then you got to wait on permission, all this. I think it really puts some speed bumps in to let cooler heads prevail. It doesn't always work, but if you don't think it's necessary, because in most lodges, it's a very rare occurrence that something heated comes up. Go to Grand Lodge and you'll see the importance, because it's like every third subject that comes up, you'll see the necessity for the protocol. It keeps things in order to where records can be kept, and it just doesn't get unruly, because it's like organized chaos. It's a beautiful thing. And so when your lodge does get out of sorts and there is a contentious issue, if you don't have those practices in place, good luck. Probably the mob is going to rule.
Yep.
Well, and the other interesting thing that I see about that also is when you stand up, and this is something you just mentioned, Rip, but I think it bears, mentioning again, that whenever you are about to, throttle someone, and we all get those feelings when somebody stands up and you know what they're about to say, and you're not going to like what they say, or you hear what they say and you just want to grab them and shake them. When you have to stand up and you have to address the worshipful master for permission, you are very quickly reminded that you're not the one wearing the hat.
Yeah.
That you are you're still all on the level, but we have chosen one person to wear the hat, and that one person has to be in charge. And it reminds you in that one moment that you don't get to stand up and say anything you want, and you have to keep your passions within due bounds. And it is therefore the worshipful master's job to see that those passions are kept contained and within the confines of the compasses.
Yeah, but to your point, when you're reminded of the fact that the worshipful master is in control, that should symbolize and spark something subconsciously that there is someone in control even above the worshipful master up there that you're accountable to, so you can't treat people in an ill manner, so if you were hopping up to do that, there should be that connection that happens in just fractions of a second that, the worshipful master's in charge, but I got to treat guys on the level. It should really kick in, because that's what we're all about, symbols. And they speak to the subconscious, not the conscious, And I think that kind of, symbolizes the bigger aspect of who's in charge and those tenets and precepts we live by. Because, man, it can get contentious, but it needs to be noble contention.
I like that.
And I don't think that anybody is. Yeah, that's a good little turn of phrase there. I kind of, as you were talking about that, it kind of made me think about the things that whenever something contentious does come up in a lodge, I don't think anyone's saying that you shouldn't have strong opinions and that you shouldn't voice your opinions and that you shouldn't do those things. I think that the whole idea of this Robert's rules and even though really we just do Robert's rules light, it's more of like a diet Robert rules.
Yeah. Good. Mm-hmm.
Even within that, it's not meant to stymie real debate and to get, heated topics going. It's to make sure that no one violates an obligation accidentally because of being in the heat of the moment.
That's exactly right. It lets us cooler heads prevail. And allows us to use real rhetoric, which I think that's in one of our degrees, if I remember right.
Yep. But that's why, it's worthwhile having a really good lodge marshal. A lot of lodges use the marshal as kind of the designated prompter for ritual, which is not a bad use for that. But the original intended purpose of having a marshal in the lodge is to have a designated parliamentarian, right? So this guy should probably ideally be a very experienced past master who knows how the show goes. because in the end, it's about fostering a environment of respect and clear communication, right? So you know how to conduct the discussion, and when the discussion goes sideways, you know where in the process it went sideways. So you got to have somebody competent there. If you don't have a marshal, then find somebody to designate, whether it's your junior warden or your secretary, whoever, maybe even your chaplain. Designate somebody as a parliamentarian.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, you'll see Brother Glasgow at Grand Lodge. Point of order, most worshipful. Point of order.
Yep. And it's necessary.
And it shuts it down. Yeah, it's like, what do you got? What did we do wrong?
Yep.
There's no doubt about it.
And a lot of times, a parliamentarian can, obviously the junior warden is the one who is in charge of bringing lodges, bringing trials to the lodge and educating the lodge on the law and in general being the lodge lawyer, right? But for example, there are a vote for affiliation is conducted differently than a vote for petitions, or it can be, right? You can run it the same way, or you can run it differently. A vote to reinstate somebody is done differently than a vote to affiliate someone, things like that. There are ways that the lodge carries out its decisions and enacts its actions that are not under the purview of the junior warden, right? He is just the lodge lawyer. The marshal, or whoever your designated parliamentarian there is designated to have that function properly, right? So the junior warden's kind of after the fact. The marshal is during the occurrence of the action. So your lodge needs to make sure that, hey, did we legally vote on that guy? Are we sure that we met all the requirements to have legally carried that vote out?
Yeah.
Hey, when we paid that bill, did we do that legally? Right? The marshal should know that and ideally prevent that from happening. So it's just like at a grand body. It's not just the grand marshal of an organization that will handle that. It's most often jurisprudence that will determine whether or not something was done legally, right? If it wasn't done legally, then that decision essentially never happened.
Yeah, and we, in that sense, we all have a duty, because I've seen it yelled from the Grand West, the point of order. But you're right, the lodge should have it. And, an interesting tidbit is when I ordered books for Masonicon, I talked to Michael Pohl from Cornerstone Publishing, and I said, hey, you tell me what's ordered the most here. He said, well, one of the most bought books in Texas is Robert Rules of Order. So we've got cats interested in it for sure.
And just a point of warning, not point of order, point of warning for brethren out there. Robert's Rules of Order are very useful in how to learn how the parliamentary process works. They are not how Masonic parliamentary process works. It gives you a basic framework for understanding how stuff works, but there are many ways, and it would take an entire episode to discuss it, in which Robert's Rules of Order just don't apply to Masonry. However, it's a great framework for learning how parliamentary process works, which you can then, once you understand the differences, extrapolate to a lodge.
No, and it's not, after you experience lodge a little bit, if it's being done in a quasi-correct manner, to figure out how it works. Because there are things, like how to properly make a motion, second it, and all that kind of things that do come from Robert's Rules of Orders. But you're right. It's like Evie said, it's diet. We have our own version.
I can't believe it's not parliamentary rules.
Does it come in like a little plastic tub, or is it the little spray bottle version?
It's the spray bottle version.
It depends on what part of Texas you're in.
I like it.
And it smells like sunscreen.
Golly. Yes. But we should all use real butter like good Americans, which we'll see, And if you like that Irish Kerrygold butter, too bad. You're looking at some tariffs, but, we'll have to go domestic for now. What we got next?
And that leads us wonderfully into the next topic.
Which I'm not sure if that's actually sarcastic or not.
No, because only real men eat real butter.
Well done on the segue, Evie.
So this next one comes from Mark McCarran sent this to all of us, and it was the Art of Manliness podcast, and they had one about, what was it called? Hold on. Man's Need for Ritual. It's episode 505, and it blew my socks off. I've listened to it twice. I talked to Evie. He listened to it. Have you had a chance to listen to it yet, Gabe?
I have not yet had a chance.
Dude, you'll love it. And I think it is a great thing to share with people who are interested in masonry or want to know more about it. I mean, because it's very eloquent in how it explained ritual, down to some of the smallest things. Like this guy talked about how before he wrote, he would sharpen his pencils, and he wrote on a laptop. So he didn't even use the pencils, but that was his ritual that got his mind set. And he talks about the nuances of it and how the ritual does speak to us, on a subconscious level, and activates conscious action. It was very intriguing. I think any Mason would enjoy it.
And it was really steeped in deep philosophy, but not so off-putting with the shaking sticks and the woo-woo stuff, as I think the way they described it in the podcast. Mm-hmm. That it really does speak to what Freemasonry is about and what most men, I think, these days are missing in their lives. And when we think about our personal lives, I mean, how many of us have really gone through some sort of a ritualized, and it's not just I've heard people talk about the initiatic experience, and that's a big Masonic topic that we hear, talks about all the time. And while that's great, this talks a lot more about the process of ritual as an ongoing process, not just something you do once as an initiatic experience, but one thing, it's a space of which you constantly are returning to. And that is profoundly different, in my opinion, than the whole initiatic experience, which is just as valuable, but it has to have a follow through. And that's where the ritual part comes in. And I really loved that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he talked about something as simple as carrying, what did he call it? Blot. It was some Germanic term or something that meant blood, but it was about sacrifice. So he would carry these little gifts in his pocket. Yeah. Blut. I think that's how he pronounced it.
Yeah. Blut.
Anyways, you'll have to listen. But he would carry little gifts in his pocket, whether it be some kind of bead or polished rock, and he would give it to people or, sometimes push it under a tree where he felt like something happened. But those little rituals would help him connect with the world around him. And, those are specific to him. But it got me to thinking about all the little things that I do, from I got to watch the weather early in the morning, to drinking coffee, all those things that those rituals that become a part of our lives and how powerful they are.
And it does kind of beg the question as well. Is it really, when you brought up drinking coffee, and I know that I've experienced this in my personal life as well, that there are days when I forget to drink coffee. I will get up and I'll be so busy and I'll forget to do it. Might even forget to do it for a couple of days. And I don't get like the withdrawal symptoms from caffeine or any of that sort of thing, at least none that I've noticed. But what I do notice is that my rest of the day is out of step. Something isn't right with my day.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes hard to put my finger on it until I think back, oh, I didn't have a cup of coffee this morning. And it's not because I needed to get going. It's because that's my ritual. This is what I do every morning in a certain order. And if it's not in that certain order, it upsets the rest of the energy of the day.
That's precisely what I was thinking about, because I'll drink the coffee before I brush my teeth. One, it tastes horrible, and to wash it off, but it gives me that moment, because I can catch myself all the time. I need to get going. Well, I still have a half a cup of coffee. I got to finish this. And you know what I mean? You have time to reflect on the day. There was so much more that went into getting the caffeine in me.
Exactly. It's not so much just about the caffeine. It's about the process of making it, the process of pouring it, the process of drinking it, the things that you're doing while you're drinking it. And that's just one specific step. I think that that this his name is Ayotte, William Ayotte, I think is the gentleman who was on the show. He brought up this idea, or this concept, that in every ritual there needs to be three parts of it. It needs to be something that you prepare, something you do, and then something you close, so that there is a separation portion of it. There is the transformational part of a ritual, and then there is a portion where you prepare and return back to regular, I guess we would call it the profane society. So that whenever you miss one of those things, the rest of the energy of your day is offset.
Yeah.
Right.
And I thought that was a really brilliant observation about, because we look at our rituals that we do, even for stated meeting, the opening and closing rituals of the lodge.
Open,
and
start, do, finish, right?
Yep.
And
exactly. We prepare ourselves for it, then we do it, and then I think, and as I was listening to that, I instantly thought of the charge that we read at the end of every Master Mason's lodge now. And it's exactly what they're talking about, this return to the profane.
Right.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
And so there's this concept called liminality, right? Where liminality is the state of ambiguity that exists when you're going through a rite of passage. And I would expand that to any ritual. Expanding liminality to any ritual might be a little too generous, right? But in general, it is the state of ambiguity in a rite of passage where you are both and neither of the states of before entering the liminal space and after entering the liminal space, right? So you could look at it this way, where you have to prepare to invite liminality as a state of being into yourself, and then you have to be ready to take it away from yourself. Or especially in rituals like degrees that require a space, you prepare to enter the liminal space, and then you prepare to leave the liminal space, where you are neither one thing nor the other, right? Like that's kind of like the entered apprentice degree, right? The entered apprentice degree, we know when in the entered apprentice degree a guy becomes Mr. to a brother, right? But there is this idea there, though, that he is kind of both and neither until everything is said and done, because it actually has to be done.
So what you're saying is that he's Schrodinger's cat in a quantum field.
Maybe. I think so. With specifically with like Masonic ritual, there is a defined point, right? So the concept of liminality is a little bit limited within Masonic ritual, right? But it's like how different Christian denominations say, hey, like, we know that the bread and wine becomes or co-substantiates with the body and blood of Jesus. We just don't know when it happens, right? Where some traditions say, yeah, we know it happens exactly at this moment, right? There is this like liminal space where we're not sure, or in the case of Masonic ritual, we know exactly when that transition happens. But even something as simple as preparing your coffee in the morning can invite a sense of liminality. I wouldn't say that it invites true liminality or that you're opening a true liminal space, but something similar to that, right? You are preparing the coffee, whether you are pouring the ground coffee from the bag or you're grinding the beans yourself. You're preparing that. Then you are brewing the coffee, drinking the coffee, and then if you're tidy, you wash the cup out, you put it back on the shelf, or if you're not tidy, you just leave it on the counter. But there is some sort of sense of you're inviting this space of I am drinking coffee now, and this is it seems rather mundane, but if you approach it mindfully, it can be a very rewarding sort of process, just like a Japanese tea ceremony, right? Which, I don't mean to denigrate the Japanese tea ceremony by comparing it to making a cup of coffee, but if you do it mindfully enough, it can have just as much meaning. So, I don't know.
No, and I think that's ultimately...
That's actually... Oh, go ahead, Britt.
I was just going to say, that's what I think we're ultimately teaching, is to be mindful in every moment of life.
Absolutely. In fact, that's exactly what was mentioned in the podcast, that in any ritualized endeavor, that there should be this state of intention, that everything is being done with intention. It's not about what you're doing, and it's not about what you're doing it with, and it's really not even about the space in which you're doing it. It's about the intention that you're bringing to whatever it is you're doing And if that is making a cup of coffee, or if that's raising a master mason, if you're going into that space with the intention that is proper and that is correct, then I say that you're meeting the requirement of it.
Yeah. No, like I said, I promise you, even if you're not a ritualist, because I don't want the title to throw you off, you're going to get something out of it as a Mason. And it's not Mason specific, although like Evie and I were talking about, it seems like they're dancing around it because they talk about a men's club that he joined quite frequently. And it just automatically makes you think Freemasonry, but it applies across the board. I mean, I've already added his book to my wish list to where what was the name of it? Re-Enchanting the Forest, Meaningful Ritual in a Secular World. And his name was William Ayot. But give a listen to the podcast. You'll see what I mean. Because it adds a new depth to the ritual, even if you're a spectator of it.
We are saying that completely free of, we are not endorsing him. We are not getting anything to mention his podcast or this book. We all just felt like, me and Rit and Mark, everybody who's listened to it so far has really felt like this podcast, this episode of this podcast, and what this gentleman has to say, Mr. Ayot, is extraordinarily powerful, and something that you should all check out. So we're doing it with the best of intentions, with no ulterior motives.
There you go.
Which sounds very suspicious when you phrase it that way, but no, as somebody who has not yet listened to the episode, I can vouch for Evie from a neutral standpoint. I gotta say, I like the title of that book, Re-Enchanting the Forest. You said it was?
Yep.
That's awesome. For me, the woods are like one of the most special places, and just conjuring that mental image is so powerful, right? And I think, and kind of something that I wanted to tack on is the idea, for me, the idea of ritual, whether it's a Masonic degree, or attending the Eucharist and participating in it, or hiking in the woods, or hunting, right? Or cooking a meal, or even brewing a cup of coffee. Everything, when done mindfully and with care and with intent, can be an opportunity for finding the sacred and inviting the sacred into your life. And I think that's something that especially in the 21st century where things seem to be so hectic and fast-paced, is something that we should take more opportunities to do.
Yeah, it's something you won't regret. I never have anyway.
Yep. Invite
I will
the
say that
sacred
this,
into your life.
Absolutely. And this podcast is one way to do that. I will tell you that episode, it was the Enola Gay of truth bombs. It was amazing. And seriously, this was, I was listening to this and every moment was packed with something worthwhile of listening to. There was not a dull moment that I thought this could have been shaved out. The entire podcast from beginning to end was these two guys having one of the absolute best conversations about why ritual is important. And I could not imagine why both or either of them could not have been Freemasons in this conversation. It was that deep and that was that great.
No, and apparently the guy that hosted, I think is McKay, he is a Freemason, the guy that does the Art of Manliness podcast.
Yes.
So there you go. If you're not sold yet, then go. You could be supporting a brother by downloading this episode.
That is correct.
Yeah. All right, boys. So when I put this one together, it ended up the first quote I had wasn't Masonic, but Oscar Wilde is a Mason, if I remember correctly.
That is correct.
Can you
Brother
get
Oscar.
Okay. Yep, Brother Oscar Wilde. So the Masonic quote of the week then is, ultimately, the bond of companionship, whether in marriage or in friendship, is conversation. And I love that.
Too true.
I think it goes well, with the Roundtable. I always enjoy these. I learn something. I love expressing what I feel and changing my opinions on things. And it's all born out of conversation. Good stuff.
Well,
Excellent
folks,
stuff.
If you want to learn more about Fort Worth Lodge or the Fort Worth podcast, you can visit our website at www.fortworth148.org. We are at Fort Worth Lodge 148 on Facebook. Our email is fortworthlodge148@gmail.com. And keep your calendars open. July 25th, 2020, Texas Masonicon 2020. And please remember, subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done so already. And please leave a review and a comment if you feel like doing so.
Absolutely. And if you have anything come up in Lodge that's interesting, that you had to look in the law book for or anything like, shoot us a message. We'd love to chat about it, because if you struggled with it, someone has, or they're going to.
Yeah.
So
email us your questions. We get listener submitted questions, and we like them. They're interesting. They're fun to talk about. We can't answer every question on the podcast because not all of them are appropriate to discuss on air. But those that are appropriate to discuss, we do enjoy discussing on the podcast.
Absolutely. We'll answer them either way. But love to add a little content. All righty, gentlemen. I guess we'll wrap this up. This is Rip Moore signing off.
This is Gabe Yager signing off.
This is Evie Kirkendall signing off.
Woo! All right.